Hi friends, host Eric here. I was talking to fans people. This wall is a metaphor of sorts for my spiritual rehabilitation. When I'm done peeling all this dumb gray stuff off the wall, which Cameron says is not paint, but some kind of cement thing that they put on like a spackling doodad. And I'll be done entirely with rehabilitation. I'll be well in full, physically and spiritually. And of course, I need to be made well physically and spiritually because as soon as I got in here, the day after we moved here, like literally, we moved in on a Monday, Tuesday, I came down with this horrible cold, and I've had it ever since. And it's much better now than it was, in the sense that I'm not feverish. I still sound sick. I still have blowing nose a lot, etc. The thing is, almost everybody's sick all the time because none of us are optimized for a world that expects everything from us. It's impossible. So, the people we purchased this house from were extremely non intuitive. ESTJ, ESFJ, probably. Not a lick of intuition between the two of them. Which is why they put this dumb gray stuff over this perfectly good retaining wall because it had cracks in it after 20 years. Well, of course it's going to have cracks in it after 20 years. It's a retaining wall. There's a lot of moisture and shit, you know? Oh, I don't like the way that looks. That is a uniform gray all the way across. They probably thought they were helping in some regard, but it's obviously not helpful at all because I could just peel it right off. Just pick it off, you know? But there's some kind of sealant thing or whatever. Just let the retaining wall be itself. The people we purchased the home from were not the INTJ genius who built this house. I can tell you that much for sure. They were good people, but there were so many crucifixes on the wall when we looked at it initially. Only an ESFJ would do something like that. First of all, your relationship with God is not a wall decoration. I'm sorry, it just isn't, right? Um, Part of my spiritual rehabilitation, though, is to be gentler in my language. You know, it's understandable how I came to be the way I was, especially growing up when I did, in the teeth of the drug war, where cops were always coming into our classrooms to tell us lies about things, which naturally, as a little kid, I believed mostly, you know? And it's not the sort of thing that's subject to logical stuff, particularly, right? Like, so, if you're going to lie about what these drugs do to you, various drugs do to you, I have no way of intuiting that you're wrong. Because it's not intellectual stuff you're talking about at all. It's about, like, if you eat that, it's poisonous, it'll kill you. Well, I have no way of intuiting anything about that, right? In the same way, I have no way of intuiting anything about anything I haven't taken before. Um, because the only way one can have meaningful knowledge about drugs is via experience, SI learning, you know. Now, you may benefit from other people's knowledge without having to do it yourself, that's for sure. Or you may fail to benefit from other people's knowledge, like I failed to benefit from what was obviously out there and available to be known, that if I had consulted individual people or read it or something rather than doctors or double blind studies, which failed to establish anything to my satisfaction, if I looked at a Reddit thread, I would have learned that nitrous oxide does cause neuropathy. If you fucking fiend it like Rachel and I did. One good thing I can tell you for sure, though, as I verified it to be both the case for both me and Rachel, is that if you get neuropathy that way, it goes away over time. And it's the best possible way to get neuropathy. You're going to get it. All other neuropathies are symptomatic of something serious, and that had Rachel bothered for a little while. Like she was basically going to have to get a limb amputated or something. I explained, no. That's like diabetic neuropathy. That's not what we did to ourselves, Regardless, I can't intuit shit about that, about harms of things. It's not possible to intuit that kind of stuff, of harms of substances you take in or whatever, long-term harms, things like that. You can't use your intuition about that because it is fundamentally physical, particularist, non-universalizing. Even if there's a universal rule that this is poisonous, if you eat it, it'll kill you, you're missing the idea of particularism and universalism if you think that qualifies as universalist, right? They apply to every single human being on the planet, but it doesn't generalize at all in any direction, right? So it's like this particular kind of mushroom is very poisonous and will kill you. It looks kind of like these other kind of mushrooms you can eat. Well, you can infer nothing from there about anything other than exactly what it says. That's what I mean by profoundly particularist. Most things in life that we know for sure have other lessons to teach us besides the exact lesson they're teaching us. But ultra particularist things like substances you put in your own body, medical phenomena, etc., they're never going to teach us anything. They're just a discovery of a reality that's not going to change or whatever. So the thing is, I'm bad at particularism. Very bad at it. I'm bad at my own self-interest. I'm bad at all subjectivities. And that means I'm bad at being human. I'm bad at being an individual person because that's what it means to be subjective, right? It is to care about yourself, to know who you are and what matters to you, what you want to, what your goals are, how to get there, what you got to do, etc. All that sensory stuff / other kind of particularist attentional stuff. Neither Rachel or I have any business being successful individual human beings because of our incredible deficits in those areas. Now, granted, it makes us uniquely qualified to do other kinds of things, right? Not uniquely. There are more than one EHP, more than one INFJ in the world. But when you factor in a lot of particular stuff as well, we're pretty uniquely qualified to do various things that we do. It doesn't change the fact that we're profoundly unqualified to take care of ourselves and profoundly unqualified to do what's right by us. Rachel and I both have fourth slot self-soothing stuff going on, habituated. And for me, it's smoking cigarettes and taking Adderall. For her, it's she likes to buy shit. It makes her feel better or something, like buy clothes or whatever. But we don't need to do those things anymore, you know? Neither of us do. And neither of us is going to be good at adapting to this reality because it requires subjectivities that we're incredibly poor at. So and this explains why we, this transition period is confusing for us. We didn't even know how sick we were. So it's hard for us to know what getting better looks like. And the thing is, almost everybody is just as sick as we were because, and it all stems back to the same fundamental problem. If people do bad shit, whatever, etc., blah, 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 then it's horrible, but it doesn't cause catastrophic problems. It's when people use words wrong that catastrophic problems get caused. When people use words wrong to create a war on drugs and call consensual drug trades of various sorts, like buying drugs from somebody, a crime, they used words wrong. That cannot possibly be a crime because you have to commit a crime against something. Person, property, state, potentially, but crimes against state are things like sedition and destroying government property and stuff like that. It's not whatever the government decides arbitrarily to say is now a crime suddenly becomes a crime. The word crime means something, you know? When people used words wrong, it resulted in nightmares ensuing from that. A whole generation of people lied to as children over and over and over and over and over again, and have a whole subpopulation of people demonized as bad guys in movies that were perfectly okay to blow them away without a second thought, right? Drug dealers. They're just drug dealers. They don't matter at all. Like that kind of horrible shit, right? Naturally, it both caused me to be deeply skeptical about any such claims thereafter and angry, right? Of course, the problem is this. When we lose the correct narratives, then anybody can make decisions and be in charge of shit. And there's nothing anybody can do about it, right? It's like, because we've lost the correct narratives as Americans, that we're all Americans, we're not Democrats and Republicans, that we lost the correct narrative that our purpose is to sustain liberty and civilization in remarkable defiance of entropy. Then, of course, who knows what's going to happen, If the word crime doesn't mean anything, then anything can be a crime. And millions of people get brutalized and thrown in prison for nothing, right? You had people scream for the death penalty for people related to doing drugs insanely, right? Why? Not because either side was right or wrong or whatever, because nobody cared about what the word crime meant. And what ended up happening was the narratives of those who pushed back were, but it's a victimless crime. How can there be why are you being so harsh with a victimless crime? I mean, The point is, it's not a crime at all, obviously. Crimes have to be against something. But if you have a frame of reference that says a crime is whatever the government says is illegal, then you're susceptible to this kind of bullshit, right? So words matter so much more to everybody else than anything else. They impact everybody in ways that are unpredictable and always bad when the words are used wrong. So people using words wrong caused me to be 50 years sick and angry, understandably. I mean, who wouldn't be angry at such brutality? But the thing is, people don't want nor need another description of the problem, no matter how accurate, perfect, unassailable it may be. No matter how correct I am, people are not interested in any sort of description of the problem. Certainly, they're not interested in a description of how they and their ways are part of the problem. What people want is an answer. So, what does one do when the answer is stop believing what you believe? Stop saying those words. Stop using words wrong. It's like that's not an answer anybody finds gratifying at all. But by the time I'm done picking all of this gray shit off of this wall and eliminating from my frame of reference this non-intuitive garbage, I will no longer use expressions like non-intuitive garbage. I will speak gently and effectively.